Welcome to this week's solo episode of the podcast. And in honor of my daughter's fourth birthday, we're going to be talking about horrible threes because, in theory, I should be getting out of that stage, right? She's four. I feel like four is kind of a turning point. That's what a lot of people say. So we're going to talk about it. And then we're also going to be chatting about kids' birthday parties and the pressures parents feel to make them Instagram worthy. But before we start chatting, I wanted to give an update on how I've been feeling. So I shared on Instagram that I was really struggling hormonally lately. My mood has honestly, it's been all over the place. I've never experienced PMS before, really. I feel like I've been on some type of contraception since I was around 17 years old, with the exception of when I was trying to get pregnant. But I've never really experienced PMS symptoms before. I don't know why. But the last few cycles that I've had, I have been experiencing the worst PMS symptoms. Like, I literally feel so depressed, so emotional. I have no energy. I feel ragey. I am even more short tempered than I normally am, just like empty. And I don't feel it all the time. I feel like I have been experiencing it more so a week or 2 weeks before I start my period. This last cycle was my cycle wasn't super regular. I don't track or anything. I am going to start tracking, by the way, because these symptoms are coming up and I kind of want to see if there's any patterns or anything like that going on. But this last cycle, I did miss my period by a week, which also kind of freaked me out. I have started my period. Actually, I'm like starting my period today, but I feel like these symptoms kind of just happen right before my period. But it's hard for me to say for sure. So I'm going to start cycle tracking and figuring out what's going on because you guys, I don't feel well. I do not feel good at all. From my understanding with conversations with other women through Instagram, when I shared about this, so many women said it could be one, PMDD, or it could be perimenopause. Which perimenopause like freaks me out. I'm like, isn't that like pre-menopause? Like, I'm 34. Like, I can't be going through menopause now. So I've done a lot of research into PMDD and I am going to make an appointment with my doctor today, actually, to go in and have my hormones checked. I also want them to like double check my IUD to make sure it's in place. Unrelated, but I feel like I've been using the Nixit cup for my periods, which amazing. If you're not using, or it's a disc, not a cup. If you're not using a disc, game changer, absolute game changer. You've got to try it. I know how scary it is. Like the first couple times I put it in, I literally felt like it was stuck. There's a learning curve. You'll get used to it, but it is literally changed my life. I never want to use tampons again for many reasons. But where was I going with that? Yeah. So I'm going to go see my doctor, have everything checked out, have them check my ID, and I'm just going to have my hormones checked. I've got to figure out what's going on with me. I don't know if there's something like that I can do. I know there's a lot of natural remedies, really keeping up with my vitamins, which I haven't been the best of doing the last month, I would say. Anyway, so I just want to give you guys an update on that. But the other thing I was going to say is the way I've been feeling, I don't feel like it's completely only related to something hormonally that's going on. I also do feel like it's environmental. Like, to be honest, like my environment is pretty stressful. And I know in my heart that I have too much on my plate without having adequate childcare. I kind of touched on this on the episode with Cody where we talked about our trip. But coming home from a 2-week vacation, I was already feeling like this before the trip even began. So like this, it's not just related to the trip, but I think the trip, it's just been more stressful. I wasn't working for 2 weeks. And when you work for yourself, you don't get any PTO. You don't get time off. The amount of work that you put into your business and the effort is what you get in return. And when you're relying that as a source of income to support you and your family, then you take that time off. That work really just piles up for you when you return. So then you're trying to do 2 weeks worth of work in like a few days. I didn't have adequate childcare. So I felt very stressed out. I felt very overwhelmed. I felt like people were relying on me. And so that, I think the stress in itself from my situation has just kind of contributed to the way that I've been feeling over the last couple of weeks. So I also want to address the environmental factors and my stress and how I'm handling that. And really what that is by having more childcare. Now, when I quit my corporate job a couple months ago. Part of the reason why I did it is I wanted more flexibility with my kids, because when you're working for a company that has a pretty strict 9 to 5, you don't have the flexibility, even if you work from home, to go and drop off your kids from school or pick them up at 3 o'clock in the middle of your shift. And I think it depends on the company you work for and what your position is. But the position that I was in did not offer that flexibility. And there had been some other positions I had applied for that I was excited about that were offered to me, and they just didn't have that flexibility. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I want to be there to pick up my kids from school. I want to be able to drop them off. I don't want to be living this highly stressful life. So that was part of the reason why I quit my corporate job, because I had the ability to quit, support myself with what I've been doing on social media. I launched my own small business. And so that's a full-time job in itself. And I could support myself with some sacrifices, but I can support myself with that income. So I made the decision to leave. But what I've realized since becoming an entrepreneur and working for myself is that it is very much a 24/7 job. It's not just 9 to 5, it's 24/7, 7 days a week. And that starts to catch up to you when you are working every weekend and you have no real downtime. It starts catching up to you. And I've been living this way for a long time. Things have definitely ramped up, I would say, since launching my business, which I'm still trying to figure out how to run a business. And a lot of time and mental energy goes into that. But it's just kind of been challenging for me to figure out a good rhythm, because I want to make sure that I'm available for my kids, but at the same time, I don't want to be so overwhelmed and overstimulated and so stressed out that I'm not showing up as the mom that I want to be. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that I basically just want to create more boundaries and structures in my life where when I'm at work, I'm at work, and when I'm at home, I'm at home. I really want to structure my job as 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, have my weekends off with very few exceptions on the weekends where I'm working or posting for a brand. I mean, 90% of the time, I want to be pretty much disconnected. Or if I create a reel or something like that, it's like because I enjoy it, not because I'm like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this for this brand. I have to do, whatever. Like, I want to just have fun with it. I need time off. And then I also want my nights off where I'm not like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that, or I need to respond to these emails. I need to get back to this person about sampling on my products that I'm trying to create for, this next year. And I just want to have more structure my working life so I can have more balance, so I don't have to be so stressed out. It sounds so easy, but it is really hard. And just that mom guilt sets in, putting my kids in childcare, especially because it's summer and my older daughter doesn't want to go to the daycare because it's for babies. She's almost 7. So most of the kids that go to the daycare are younger. So I feel guilty doing that, but I also don't have the capacity to entertain her every single day, and I'm not just going to let her watch TV while I work. I personally cannot do that. Like, the mom guilt is just too much for me. I really need time to sit down and focus. Like, when I am, oh my God, when I am interrupted, when I am working, it is like one of my number one triggers. Like, it is so enraging to me. And that's not fair to my kids either. I don't want to be that type of mom. I lived all the way through COVID doing that, and I'm just over it. I don't have the capacity. I had to take a drink of coffee. Let's see. Okay. So that was like a big rant. Basically, what I'm saying is I need more childcare, and I need to stop feeling so guilty about it, because at the end of the day, it's better for my kids to go to daycare, have a positive experience, socialize, do activities, like be in a positive environment, rather than have me try to fit 5 days worth of work into 3. So, because I have 3 days of childcare right now, be stressed out, overwhelmed, work every weekend, work nights, work after the kids go to bed. Like, it's not sustainable, and it's not benefiting me. I know it's affecting my kids. I know it's going to affect my relationship with Cody. It already has in some ways, where he's seen how I've been operating the last couple of years since we haven't been together. And he's like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, there's other ways that you can operate, and let's figure it out, because you shouldn't have to live this way and feel so overwhelmed and stressed out. You can still have that good balance of being with your kids and being present while also kicking ass at work. Like there's so many women that do it. So that's my goal. Going back to the PMDD thing, I think it's a combination of those two things. I think it's a combination of my hormones changing now that I'm in my mid 30s. And then I also do think it's environmental as well. And so I'm hoping by going to my doctor, making some of these lifestyle changes where I have more structure to my life and more separation between work and home life, I think that's really going to help. So I'll keep you guys updated. I'll share this journey with you on social media. So if you're not following me over there and you're interested in seeing what that looks like, go over to Instagram and give me a follow. Not. Okay. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into today's topic, which is about horrible threes and kids' birthday parties. My daughter just turned 4 yesterday, and I was thinking 4 is the age where things start to get easier. At least that's how it was with my oldest daughter. I feel like there was a turning point when she turned 4. Like there weren't as many meltdowns. She can more emotionally regulate. We could actually have conversations about what happened in certain scenarios, and I feel like she could retain the information and like really understand and like comprehend certain things that she wasn't able to when she was 2 and 3 years old. But with that said, youngest daughter is a completely different person from my older daughter. And I am just praying to God that it starts to get easier because I am struggling so much. I feel like her personality, she's so spicy. She's so fiery. She knows what she wants and she knows how to get it. And most of the time she gets what she wants. But on the other hand, she's so sweet, like, and loving, and she just wants to be with me all the time. She's obsessed with me. And so I love that about her. And I do love her really strong personality. I think that is a huge blessing and is really going to help her, especially as she gets older. But also at the same time, it's really difficult to parent her. There was a situation when we were in Amsterdam. I didn't talk about this on this last episode. I forgot, but I can't remember like what happened, but she was very overstimulated. This was towards the end of our trip. She's very overstimulated, overwhelmed. We were in the hotel room. She wanted something. I don't know what she wanted. She was like to that point where she was like completely unreasonable and completely just unhinged. And I was trying to communicate with her, like, what do you need? I don't know what you're saying. And she was just like spitting off a bunch of gibberish. And I'm like, what? And I would ask, I'm like, what did you say? I don't know what you mean. And then she would freak out. She'd start hitting me. It got so bad. It was legitimately the worst meltdown she has ever had. I'm so glad it happened privately. I was trying to gentle parent her. I was trying to reason with her. I was trying to sit down with her, comfort her. I was trying picking everything out of the toolbox. Nothing was working. And then I started getting very dysregulated and frustrated because we're in this tiny room. Cody and Harper were there too. And I was just like, I was tired. I was sick. I was like, just totally done. It's the end of the night. I think we needed to get dinner or something. And I just like lost my shit. And it was legit just the worst tantrum that has ever happened. And I just had this thought where I'm like, I legitimately do not know how to parent this child. Like, I don't know what to do. Every parenting approach that I have taken legitimately does not work. And I know that the argument with like gentle parenting and that is that you don't always see results, or you don't see results real time. It's really the long game with gentle parenting. And I get that and I understand that. And like, I'm all for that. But that was one of those moments where I was just like, this needs to stop and it needs to stop now. And I definitely raised my voice and wasn't really proud of the way that I responded. But at the same time, I just felt like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, being a parent is so hard because you're legitimately just thrown into the gauntlet and expected to know how to parent. Every kid is different. There's no handbook. You could read parenting books. Every child is different. And by the way, who the freak has time to read parenting books or listen to them? Like, I cannot even go like 2 minutes without being interrupted by something, like legitimately. I don't listen to what I want in the car because my kids are always fighting about who gets to listen to what and blah, 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 blah. Don't give them their tablets in the car because screen time's bad for them. So it just feels a lot. Oh my God. This just reminded me though too, on Instagram yesterday or a couple days ago, I had mentioned like just the burnout that I feel and how it's really hard for me to care for myself. I'm going to have to write this down. We're going to have to get into this in a different episode, but that one is coming. I have received hundreds of DMs. And so I know people feel really passionately about this topic, and I feel very passionately as well. But it's basically talking about, why do moms feel like they can't care for themselves when everything else seems to be more important than putting themselves first. I'm going to get into the topic next time, so I'm going to make a note. But basically, like, the question I want to know is like, when does it get easier? And please don't tell me it never gets easier, because I do not want to hear that. Can someone please give me some hope? And I feel like just talking about the difficulties in like the toddler years, I feel like this is an outlet for me to vent. It's not an outlet for me to really gain tips or tricks. Like, I don't need more parenting advice. I just want to vent about it. I just want to vent that these kids are hard. Parenting is hard. You're doing the best freaking job that you can. It's a trip, and every child is different. So what works with one doesn't work with another. And it just seems like you just have to be like this calm, collected parent while you're parenting them at all times. And it's just so tiring. It's really hard. It's catching up to me. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is hard. Okay, I'll stop venting about the toddler years. I'll keep you guys updated if fours start to get easier. Okay, so the other topic I wanted to dig into a little bit today is kids' birthday parties. Like, what is up with kids' birthday parties these days? I feel like when you're planning your kids' birthday parties and you just like look up on Google or Instagram or Pinterest, whatever, images of these extravagant parties come up with these big balloon arches that are probably like several $100s just for the balloons. And then you see like all of these, like this whole spread of treats and candies and cookies, and everything's labeled and looks great. And, the mother is wearing like this, themed dress, and so is the birthday girl. And then they have this big, beautiful white bounce house in the back, in this big, beautiful backyard, and party favors. Party favors. Can we please stop giving party favors at birthday parties? Please. I tried to get away with it this last year with my daughter's birthday, which is coming up on Saturday. I went shopping with my older daughter so she could buy her sister a present. And she had talked about 2 other birthday parties that she had recently gone to, and they had party favors and gift bags. And look, I'm all for people doing what makes them feel good as a parent. Like, you do you. If you like to go all out for your kid's birthday party and do the bounce house and do the party favors and buy custom cookies and pay $400 for a balloon arch that you'll look at and then pop the next day. I'm all for that. You do you, but it's really hard when you're the parent that doesn't really want to do that. You kind of just want like a basic birthday party with a theme, and like you're going to buy pizza and you'll have cake, and it's just kind of basic. But it's hard when your kids go to these extravagant parties and then you're just like, oh, this is what we're going to do. So anyway, my daughter was like, Mom, we have to do these gift bags that happen at so-and-so's birthday and so-and-so's other birthday. And these are the things, let's look in the aisle. And I tried to be like, oh, well, I'll go and look at it later, a different day. Like, let's just pick out the gift for your sister right now. Let's go to the toy aisle. And she's like, Mom, but we have to go and check and look and see. And I know that like I could just be firm and be like, we're not going to do the party favors. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, it's not that it's expensive necessarily. Like I think it only ended up costing like maybe $10 or $15 total in like these little cheap party favors that I'm going to put in a bag. But it's just kind of like another thing for moms to do. And I am just exhausted by it. I feel like I have to keep up with these extravagant parties and have it be Pinterest and Instagram worthy. There was like also another situation where like I just kind of feel guilty that we're having my daughter's party at our house. We're not going to a play gym. We're not going to a trampoline park. Our backyard's not big enough to have a bounce house with how it's sloped in the backyard. And like we have this huge concrete pad in the back. And the grass is sloped. So the bounce house doesn't work. And so I kind of feel guilty that we're just going to do a at-home birthday party with a little craft, a piñata, and cake and pizza. Like that's all we have planned. We don't have a pool. We don't have any of that, fancy stuff. And I do kind of feel bad about it for some reason, because sometimes we'll go to these parties and, they're a little bit more extravagant. And I don't know. It's a personal thing. I'm not saying anyone needs to change for me or my feelings, but like, I can't be the only one that feels like this pressure that you have to do all of the things and have all the decorations and all of the treats and all of the party favors for it to be a worthy birthday party. I'm just kind of tired of it. Can we just make a pact as parents to just stop doing party favors? Like there is no parent out there that one likes to put them together and then two likes to receive them as a guest going to someone else's birthday, because that's just more junk in your house, more things for you to have to organize, more crap that's just laying around, more Play-Doh that's going to get stuck in the carpet. Like, let's just collectively make a choice as parents, like no more party favors. Does anyone else remember like their birthday parties growing up? I have home videos from my birthday parties growing up, and we did activities like, yeah, pin the tail on the donkey. What's that called where you like put a balloon between your leg and you like have to run balloon between your leg, like activities like that. It's like, could we please go back to that? Like just not do the bounce houses. Let's not do all this stuff. One other thing about kids' birthday parties, we haven't really like broached this too much, but when your kid gets to an age where they're in school, then it's like, okay, you have to invite their entire class to come to the birthday party. If you're going somewhere like an indoor play park or a trampoline park or if you're paying money and you have to pay per person, these birthday parties get expensive very fast. Last year was the first year that we had ever paid for a venue for a birthday party. We went to a trampoline park and it was several $100s, and we did not have a big birthday party. I think there was only like 8 or 10 kids, and it was so expensive. Just imagine if you invite, a class of 20 or 25 people kids to these parties, and yeah, not everyone's going to come or whatnot, but then it's like, that is so expensive. How am I supposed to afford this as a parent? You want to invite them, but it's like the pressures of like doing the trampoline park and paying all this money. It's like, I'm bankrupt. Like I am legitimately bankrupt. Kids are so expensive. Oh my God, that could be a whole other topic. I'm not going to get into. I could do in a future episode. I'm going to wrap this one up. That's all I have to say about kids' birthday parties. So thanks so much for listening. Make sure to leave a review. Message me on Instagram if you have any questions, comments, feedback, any of that good stuff. I'd love to hear from my community. Try to reach out to me through the podcast page, because I feel like my DMs on Honestly Caitlin get bogged down very easily, or sometimes they go into the hidden folder and it's like hard to find. So I don't get as many messages on my podcast page. So DM me over at the podcast page, because chances are I will see it. And thanks for joining, and we will chat next week.